Oh my God. Hi, Steph.
Technology.
Don't you just love it?
Love
I
it.
I haven't been live on my other account for a while, and apparently now there's issues. Not issues, but you have to have a certain amount of followers. I had no idea. So I'm like, oh my God. So thank God I have this other account. And we managed. So I'm
We
so
made it.
excited. I know we made. I am super excited that we get to explore conversations, not just any conversations, but real conversation so that we can help families build healthy, confident relationships with money. I'm Doina, for some of you that don't know me, and I'm the founder of Money Made. And today I am so excited to have Steph. She is a boundaries life coach for women, and she's here to help us think about how healthy boundaries, keyword there, healthy boundaries shape our money conversations with our kids, our partners, but most importantly with ourselves, especially as women. So, Steph, I want to thank you so much for being here. You and I have met doing it was a challenge, a boot camp. I forgot the name, Amy Porterfield's boot
Yep.
camp. And we got connected on Facebook, on Instagram, I believe on LinkedIn as well. It's official. We're friends.
We're all over
It's
each other.
official. We're friends. So I do have a couple of questions that I would like to ask you for everyone that is joining us today, or they might watch the recording later. But before I go to my questions, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Yes, of course. Well, I'm Steph Koenig. I have been in the corporate world for 25 years, working mom for 16 of them. And I, like many other working women, found myself really deeply entrenched in the hamster wheel of life.
Mm-hmm.
Work the job, take care of the kids, get food on the table, make sure that, we have a roof over our heads, rinse and repeat over and over and over. And I burned out.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself just overwhelmed, waking up in the middle of the night, 3 in the morning, heart pounding, mind racing about all the things that I didn't do or had to do the next day. And it was awful. And
Mm-hmm.
I finally found myself Googling happy women. Online because I needed something. Something had to change. Something had to give. I was
Yes.
not happy. I was not happy,
Mm-hmm.
and Mama's not happy. And nobody happy.
Right?
And that's how I learned about boundaries. I joined a women's group and I learned about boundaries, and it was mind blowing. The minute I realized what boundaries can do and how it was so much about how we can handle the things that we can control, not try to control
Mm-hmm.
others, I
Yes.
realized how much time I was wasting just trying to control everybody else when I had so much power to control what I could do. And so I really turned it around. I've been able to set boundaries to give myself more time, to give myself more energy, more clarity, more confidence in my life, and be a better mom to my kids and a better partner with my husband. And I decided to turn that into a coaching business so that I can help other women like me turn it around, hit the pause button, and really find those boundaries that'll help make them reclaim their time as well. And in some cases, 10
Yes.
to 15 hours a week they didn't know they had because we just
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the boundaries around it.
A quick fun fact before I start with my questions. I'm 51 years old. 51? Yes, 51. I forgot how old I am. I'm 51 years old. The first time I heard about boundaries was 15 years ago. I did not know about boundaries because I thought I'm supposed to be everything for everybody. I'm supposed to put everybody else before me, including their needs. You know what I mean? Everything has to be put before me because I didn't want people to think I'm selfish. So
Mm-hmm.
when I heard about boundaries, when somebody sat down with me and shared that, I was like, am I allowed to have that? That's actually allowed. And then I literally had tears coming down my face because, it was like, how do I explain this? It was something out of this world. I didn't think it was possible. Just something
Yeah.
as simple to say, you mean I have permission to do this? And yes, your work is very much so needed. So I'm really happy that you're here and you do this work because women need this. So, well, let me start with my questions that I have for
Yeah.
you. So let's start with your own money story. Okay, because I know we've had some conversations and I've had some information from you before this to prepare. And then from our conversations, you mentioned you grew up with this idea of being on austerity and then marrying into a very different money mindset. Can you share more about how those differences showed up in your early in your relationship?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And it's funny because when I grew up, my mom would always say, we're on austerity. We're on austerity. And that means like
Mm-hmm.
what? Rice and beans. Like, what does that mean? It's like dire is what
Yes.
that said to me. And so I grew up thinking I had to hold money. I had to grasp money. I had
Mm-hmm.
to control money. And when I met my husband, his joke was, this was a running joke, and it was, his family motto was refrigerator broken, buy a new house.
Mm-hmm.
So couldn't be more opposite how I felt
Yes.
about money. They were very, they didn't talk about money being scarce. They spent money. They were very, they used it as a tool for love, you know, buy a
Mm-hmm.
gift to show somebody you love them. And so his mindset was so opposite mine. And we didn't really, you know, first rule broken, we didn't really talk about that a
Mm-hmm.
lot before we got
Mm-hmm.
married. And so we got married, and, you know, let's say 5 years, one fixer-upper house, two mortgages, and maybe $100,000 in added debt later, and two
Mm-hmm.
kids on top of
Mm-hmm.
that. We were wearing thin because
Yes.
that opposite mindset, what we were doing so much was avoiding, we were avoiding conversations with each other about it. I was taking all of the control of the money, and the
Mm-hmm.
spreadsheets were out of control, and the obsessing and the, you know, wanting to pinch every penny. And on the other side of it, he would be, well, she's taking care of it, so I don't have to think about it, or I don't, or I'm not good enough to do it because she's doing it all and it's taking that away from me. So
Mm-hmm.
we would have a lot of arguments about money, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of, you know, you hold on to it for a long time, you don't say anything, and then boom, it's all, you know, it all comes out at once. And so that had to change too. And we have
Right.
since moved much closer to middle ground. It took us a lot of trial and error and a
Yes.
lot of time, but we actually have gotten there, and we're in such a much better place. I've come somewhat toward him and he's come somewhat toward me, and we're
Mm.
working in the muddy middle, but it works better.
Thank you for sharing that. What kind of conversations had to happen for you to come to that middle ground, if you don't mind
Yeah.
sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, so it is, and you know, we've talked about this. It does come down to boundaries, but it also comes down
Mm-hmm.
to values and understanding each other's values. Because
Mm.
what boundaries do is they make sure your outside and how you're in the world and living in the world matches with what's going on the inside with your values, and it's how you can live authentically and with very much less friction. And so
Mm-hmm.
what we found is that, you know, figuring out what our values are around money, I valued security. I valued paying off the debt. I
Right.
valued making sure that we had stable income to manage. So those were my non-negotiables. I was figuring out what are those things that are really non-negotiable for
Mm.
me. And then for him, he's, you know, he wanted to have some autonomy, but he also wanted to be able to give gifts, be able to
Mm-hmm.
have the ability to do things like that. He wanted to also feel like a partner in money, even though it was hard to be that for a while. So
Mm.
those were kind of things that he valued. He wanted to feel like he was providing in whichever way works. So
Mm-hmm.
finding out what those non-negotiables were, what those values were that we were working with, we were able to have much more direct conversations about, well, okay, well, if this is how we feel, how can we work together to put our money where our values are, and
Yes.
how we can balance those values so that sometimes I'll say, yes, let's take that vacation, or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, let's, you know, or he'll say, yeah, you know what, I really do want to put more money to that, you know, debt payment, whatever. We were able to kind of come to that middle ground by really talking deep about what it is
Mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
value and needed, because we were always fighting about being heard or about security,
Yes.
but we were never really talking.
Right. You know, having money conversations with partners is something that I've seen a lot working as a financial advisor for a while. I've been working with couples. When I had the session with them, that was the first time they had money conversations as a couple, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been married for years and they didn't know about their money, which is, it's more common than we think. And one of my goals is to have these conversations on money between partners, or generally speaking, I don't want them to be so taboo that we don't talk about it, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it's about values. It's about what are my values, what is important to me, and let's have those conversations. So kudos to you and your partner for having those conversations. Now, how did you have similar conversations? So I'm assuming after you and your partners have those conversations about money, now you have to talk to your kids. What
Mm-hmm.
does that like?
It's interesting. It's very
Yeah.
interesting because for a while I found myself doing the same thing my mom did and saying, not saying the words, we're on austerity, but saying, oh no, we can't have that. We can't have this. We
Mm-hmm.
can't do that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that it became clear after a while, really impacting how they felt about our money situation, about money in general as well, until
Mm-hmm.
we were having a conversation with our daughter who is just about to turn 17, and she was talking
Right.
about how they had this conversation in school in one of their money classes, that they actually have money classes in school now, which is amazing. um,
Yes. Not all schools though, but
Not
most of
all, but
them.
they're getting
Yes.
there, right? They're like, it's baby steps. But she said we were supposed to like talk about how much money our parents made, and we said, oh well, how much money do you think we make? And the number she threw back at us was so unbelievably low compared to where we are. We were really shocked, and we realized, okay, wait, we have to have more conversations about,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not every single dime, but it's more like, well, you know what, we actually are doing really well, and this is
Yes.
why, and this is also why we say no to things, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not because we don't have the money, it's because we're choosing to put our money where our values are. And right now we're
Yes. Say
valuing
say that say that again for the people that are. Say that
we're
one more time.
we're
Yes.
putting our money where our values are.
Yes. Because
Um,
you're choosing. It's the
yes,
word choosing, which is so
yes.
important. Yes.
Yes,
Sorry,
so
go ahead.
teaching them about that, we just, don't save money for a rainy day. Talk about what do you want it to actually do for you? Give that money a
Mm-hmm.
job. And some of it
Yes.
is saving for a rainy day, but some of it is, my daughter wanted a new car. She's just getting her
Mm-hmm.
license and she wanted a car, and we helped
Right.
buy a car, a cheap
Mm-hmm.
car. We're not getting like the
Yes.
brand new BMW or Mercedes that some people in our neighborhoods might have, but she's paying us
Mm-hmm.
monthly like she would be paying for a loan for that car,
Right.
so that she can learn about paying down debt in a safe environment with a bit of a safety net. So
Yes. I
that
did
kind
the
of
same for my
conversation.
daughter too. When she said to me, I don't want to go to school, I'm taking time off, I just want to work. And I said, great, you live with me, you're going to have to start paying rent.
Mhm.
Because, if you were to be outside, you will have to pay rent. And I'm charging you, I didn't charge her a lot. I charged her $300 a month. I said, $300 a month covers your rent and covers the gas bill, covers the electricity. If you want to buy food, you can eat the food from the fridge, but if anything else, you have to buy yourself. So I put the money for her and I put it in a savings account that she didn't know about. And
Mhm.
then when she needed money to go to driving school, I paid for driving school. And I said, well, that's how we save money. You know what I mean? You can't
Mhm.
say that I'm not going to have any responsibility and things are just going to show up for me, because that's not true. When you go out there in the world, all of the skills that your parents are teaching you, those are life skills that are going to take you and help you for life. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's not
Yeah.
just, it's not about being, because she was saying, well, you're just so mean because how could they charging me rent? I'm like, I'm sorry, you're an adult. And as an adult, it comes with that responsibility that you have to start
Mhm.
paying bills. So yeah, it's super important. So good for you for charging that. And I'm sure it doesn't come with the interest that she would have to pay if she were to get it from the
No, we
bank.
kept it simple. We kept it simple. Yeah. But
Yes.
one of the things we like to say to our kids is we have two jobs as parents.
Hmm.
And they
Right.
can recite this back to us. The first job is to keep you safe, and second
Yes.
job is to help you learn to make good decisions. And
Absolutely.
every time we've asked them that question, so what are our jobs? They'll recite it right back to us. It's
Hmm.
crazy. I'm like, they're listening. But that's
Yes.
it, right? It's like helping them learn to make good decisions, because they're going to
Absolutely.
make mistakes. They're kids. They're just learning. And it's
Right.
up to us to teach them and to help them to learn.
Yes. Can you share with us, or maybe can you give us some advice to some parents that they find themselves in similar situations. Because you share with me that your daughter shared a powerful moment with you around comparing herself to more affluent peers. Maybe you want to share with our conversation how it all went, and some advice that you have for the parents that maybe find themselves in similar situation. Because
Yeah.
I know that's very, very common for a lot of parents.
Yeah, well, I mean, comparing is so
Yes.
prevalent. It's something that we all do, even as adults, is we're always comparing ourselves to what others have or how others are, especially with social media, where
Mm-hmm.
everything you see on social media is so curated. You don't know what went on in the background to get that shot or to get that, picture, whatever, a video going,
Mm-hmm.
you don't see the dirty house on the other side of the screen for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we try, we say that to my daughter. We live in a small town, and it's two small towns side by side, and one town is more affluent than the other, and we're not in the affluent town. And so when she goes to school, our two towns are in the same school. She does see kids go to school in Teslas and in brand new, Mercedes and whatever, and which is mind blowing to me still. But
Yeah.
she'll say, oh, well, so and so's parent bought them a car and they didn't even have their license yet, or and we're like, that's interesting. Tell us about that. And she'll tell us all about how she felt like all these kids are getting all these things and they're going on these big vacations and they have all these clothes that they want and all these things, and but I don't. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, I think trying to redirect a little bit and say, well, let's think about what you do have, all the
Mm-hmm.
things, and try to list the things that we do have. We do go on nice vacations. We do have, a home, and she does get those every once in a while, those $100 Nike sneakers that she really wants if it's a special occasion. But the more important thing was also to think about, well, we don't know what's going on in the background in those lives. We don't know how
Mm-hmm.
much in debt that family might be in because they're
Yes.
spending all this money. We don't know what kind of jobs their parents have. We don't
Right.
know any of the dynamic behind it. So I like to use social media as like that example too with her, because
Mm-hmm.
they can it resonates with them. They know how many pictures they took to try to get that one selfie that goes great.
Right.
It's like we have to remember. And it's hard because we do the same thing as adults. My husband and I will walk through town and go, oh, I didn't know they got a pool. How is it that they can have a pool and we just can't even get our home renovation done yet? It's like things like
Yeah.
that we're like, but wait, there are other things at play, and trying to
Yes.
really just have them think about it. And also, I mean, we're talking about college now too. So my daughter's looking at colleges, and
Mm-hmm.
she's really starting to learn about, well, do I want to be $300,000 in debt when I get out of college, and how am I going to pay that? And she's worried about that because she's thinking about it.
Yes.
And I think just asking questions that make them think is so important.
Mm-hmm. That is very important. That is so, so true. And you being a boundaries coach, I'm sure you put a lot of that in place and having those boundaries conversations with your
Mhm.
kids about it,
Mhm.
right? So tell us a little bit
Mhm.
more about those boundary conversations.
Oh, sure. Well, first of all, I love it when my daughter comes. I'm setting a boundary. It's like music to my ears. I'm like, okay, she is listening. Again, she's listening.
Yes. Kids listen a
um,
lot, we think that they don't, but they listen. They listen so much, and they're at very young age as well. And when they get older, my kids, and I know that they listen because they have their headphones on, and I ask them, can you clean up the kitchen? They don't hear me anything. But if I say, hey, you want
mhm.
some from the store? Oh, yes. So right away they listen.
Mhm.
So I know they
Mhm.
listen. They
They
hear
hear things
you.
sometimes that we don't want them to hear, that we don't realize that they're hearing either. So there's a lot to
Yes.
that. In terms of having boundary conversations with them, I mean, it's a two-way street, right?
Yes.
Because we have to teach them about setting boundaries, but we start by trying to teach them how to respect boundaries, right? We're always
Mm-hmm.
talking about, I remember when my children were really small, respect the bubble. Don't touch people where they don't want to be touched, or don't do this
Right.
or that, right? So we're always starting off by talking about it in the outward, like how we have to respect other people's boundaries. But what we also
Mm-hmm.
have to do is show them how to set their own boundaries
Right.
and ask for them to be respected. And that starts with us respecting their boundaries too,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
asking them questions about what they need in a moment. When one of my children is really upset, the first thing we want to do is just fix it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that might not be what they want. So now the question is, and it's a boundary question. They don't realize it's a boundary question, but it's, well, do you want to be helped? Do you want a hug? Or do you want to just vent?
Right.
and they'll tell me in that moment what they want. But, we won't ask that question usually. It wasn't top of mind for me in the beginning. But
Mm-hmm.
now just allowing the idea that they have boundaries too, or that they need to have boundaries too, is really key.
Mm-hmm. So true. So, so true. I love it when parents have those conversations with their kids. I did work with kids in the past, so I learned all the psychology about parenting and how to talk to kids. Sometimes I have to say it is hard to put it in practice for myself, but I see it in other people and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be doing that too. So I love it when other parents are transparent about their situations or things
Hmm.
that they are doing, because it helps me as a parent to do better as a parent, because we get to learn from each
Yeah,
other, which I think is so important. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. You mentioned to me that one key message that you want parents to take away is the power of transparency and honesty with our kids, with our teens. Can you share what that really looks like in practice? Speaking about, oh
Hmm.
my God, what does that look like in practice?
Putting our money where our mouth is for this one, right?
Yes. Yes.
I think it's transparency. I mean, it's okay to tell our kids if we're having a bad day. It's okay to tell our kids when we're feeling down or we're feeling anxious, or, we don't have to give them the whole story, but
Yes.
to just be transparent about how we feel, because that
Mm-hmm.
also teaches them to be transparent about how they feel, and gives them language to use to express themselves
Right.
down the road. And transparency also means explaining what you need in the moment
Mm-hmm.
as well. So being transparent about how you feel, but then also being able to ask for what you need. Again, because it's teaching them the same thing. They
Yes.
should be able to ask for what they need. I'm
Yes.
really upset and I need a hug. I don't need you to
Mm-hmm.
tell me
Right.
what to do about it.
Yes. Yes.
It's so key. And for me, it's just, and I have to remind myself, telling them when I made a mistake. That's a big one that I've embraced, but it was really
Mm-hmm.
hard to do because we're parents. We're supposed to be perfect, right?
You
Wrong.
know, we're heroes.
We're human.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. We're the super moms, right? The super mom myth is
Yes.
real. But you know how different it is when I say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," to apologize to my child.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. I really didn't
Mm-hmm.
mean to say that, or I really shouldn't have been this way, or whatever it
Yes.
is. It makes us human, and it actually allows them to do the same thing as well.
That
Again,
is so true.
modeling.
Yes. For me, I can share where there was a time when I was really broke. Like so broke, I didn't know. I was scared to look at my bank account. And I didn't talk to my kids about this type of stuff because I thought they're too young to know. But when I realized how broke I was, I went to the store to buy groceries, and the only thing that I could afford was a box of crackers that cost $2.40. That's all I could afford. I was
Mm,
that broke. I put stuff in my cart to buy things, and then I'm about to pay, and it says insufficient fund. And back
mm,
then there was not tap. You had to put in the card and you had to put in the PIN number. So I had to do that a couple of times. And finally, the only thing that I could afford was a box of crackers that was $2.40. I felt embarrassed and I said, I can't believe I'm doing this to my kids as well. But then when we got home, I thought the best thing that I get to do is be transparent with them and tell them this is where we're at. We don't have money. My boundaries was you don't ask me about things right now because I really don't have it. As you saw when we were at the store, I couldn't afford to buy
mm.
groceries. We had to go to food bank, and for a while I said, you have to eat whatever I give you. Do not complain, but I'll promise you this. So going back to the goals, I promise you this, we're not going to be in this situation again. So now my kids know. And there's been many times when we go to the store, I went back around and I made money, I got a job, I made money, I was okay. I paid off my bills, I was okay. And then we go to the store and my child that was younger, because I have two daughters, the one that was younger, she said, remember that time when we went to the store and we didn't have money? Like, how lucky are we now that we actually
Ah,
have? So she came
yeah.
and she recognized that, yes, there's times when they're hard and there's times that when we do have it and we show grace and we're being grateful for that because we could always go back. But Now they trust the belief that my mother promised that we're not going to go through this again, and we haven't gone through that again. Now when I tell them, because we do also share goals, like sometimes I'm saving for something. Like I had a challenge. I gave myself a challenge last year to save $10,000 without increasing my salary. My income didn't increase, but I was able to save $10,000 in the same lifestyle. So my kids know we have
Yeah.
a goal. And it's so important having a goal, like you're mentioning earlier. You're not just saving money just to save money. We're saving because we need to buy a car or we need to go on vacation. Now they understand, because when you come up and you say, we don't have money for this right now, we're saving for this goal, they can back off, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, if
Yes,
we dial back to the very beginning of this conversation, I was talking about my mom saying we're on austerity all the time.
yes.
Do you know why she was saying we were on austerity?
No,
Because they
tell
were
us.
saving to put in an in-ground pool.
Oh, okay.
And
But
it's
you
like,
see, you didn't know that,
I know if we had
right?
only
At the
known
time.
that, if she had been transparent and said, oh,
Right,
well, we're saving for something special. Maybe they wanted the pool to be a surprise. It could have been.
right,
But it's like we're saving for something special instead of we're really in dire straits, which is the message that
right.
we had gotten as kids. It would have been such a different discussion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think transparency is so important, especially with your kids. If you don't want to be transparent with your friends, that's cool, but be transparent with your kids. They need to know, because that's how they learn
Yeah.
too. A lot of parents I see, I've been talking to a lot of parents, and they're so afraid to talk to their kids because their parents didn't teach them about money either, right? And now they feel like they're passing on what they don't know with their kids. But I think
Hmm.
starting with being transparent about this is where we're at, and include kids in the conversation, they will be able to come up with some solutions, but they are also part of it, even if they don't have this whole solution, right? They're part
Hmm.
of it, which I think it's so much better. And it teaches them so many important life skills.
Absolutely.
It's so
Hmm.
important. Yes. Um, okay. You also said you wish your parents had explained pay yourself first better. Like they explained that concept better. What does that concept mean to you now? And how do you teach it to your own kids?
Yeah, yeah. Well, pay myself first goes straight to the heart of put your money where your values are. Because when
Yes.
my dad was someone who always used to say, pay yourself first. And I didn't really understand what it meant. I thought, oh, I just
Mm-hmm.
have to take some money and set it aside. But pay myself first is a couple of meanings. One is monetary, and that means put my money toward something. Don't just let
Mm-hmm.
it lie there. Do I want to invest so I can grow my wealth? Do I want to put that money aside for a women's retreat next year? Do I
Mm-hmm.
want to buy a car? Whatever that is, I want to have a reason for that money. And that's one way I pay
Yes.
myself first. The other way I pay myself first has nothing to do with money. It has to do with time, and it has to do with self-care. And paying myself
Yes.
first, it can be free. It can be reading a book outside in the sun. It could be taking a walk. It could be
Yes.
meditating. It doesn't have to be related to money. So that's the other way I pay myself first.
Thank you. That is so, I was so clear. That was so, and it's so good. It's so true. It's like having that self-care built into your own life. It's so important. And whatever that is, like you said, doesn't have to cost money. You can go out for a walk, having
Yeah.
that time. Actually, on Friday, I've been doing a lot. The last couple of months, I worked so hard, and I'm just sitting in the office, and I said, you know what, today I'm going to have my lunch in the bush. And I literally went for a hike. I bought some food, and I went for a hike, and I sat there in the middle of nowhere. It was the best lunch ever. Fresh air, you know what I mean? Fresh air, clean air, um, quiet. I could hear the birds. It was the best. It
Hmm.
really
Hopefully
was
no
the best. And
screens, right? No more
no,
screens in that moment.
no
Yeah.
screen. I took some pictures because I know to take some pictures. I'm going to be
That's
honest.
different.
But I took some pictures because, I needed that. Other than that, I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't even have music because I didn't need it. I could hear the water. I could hear the birds. So that was so beautiful.
Hmm.
That's pay
Yeah.
yourself first, because you have to invest in yourself. You have to take care of yourself if you want to be able to take care of other people, right? Paying you, take care of you first,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Yes,
because you can't pour from an empty cup. And,
absolutely.
I like to think I don't want my cup just to be able to be poured. I want it to be overflowing so it's effortless
Yes.
for it to come out. It just pours over the edges and spills over everybody.
Absolutely. And that's how we can give more, right? That's how we
Yeah.
can give more. Yes. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about some values, priority, and some harmony. So you talked about putting your money where your values are. How do you practice that personally, other than that, reading a book in the sun? And how do you talk to your kids about spending in alignment with your values?
Yeah, absolutely. So the one big thing, and I use it as an example already, but I actually put money toward a women's retreat I go to every year in a beautiful place. That is a non-negotiable for me. That is my time to recharge, decompress, spend time with like-minded women, and really
Mm-hmm.
kind of dig in deep and share. It's just a really cleansing experience, and it's just such a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful time. And I absolutely, that is one way I'm putting my money where my values are, because I value connection
Yes.
and in this way, and I also value growth. Those are two things that I value, and so I'm putting my money to that. That's why I started seeing a life coach. That's why I joined women's communities, and I spent money to do those things, because those were important to me to grow and to
Mm-hmm.
find peace. And the other way I put my money where my values are is I do make sure that just became last year credit card debt free. So
Yes.
I was
Yes. Oh my
very
God. That's amazing, especially during this
single-minded.
time. Yes.
Oh my
Oh
gosh,
my goodness.
single-minded about it. And now we also pay our credit cards in full every month. So,
Yes.
but that was a process. But that was important to me, and that was value to me. I said it at the beginning. One of the values was to be
Mm-hmm.
debt-free, is not to hold credit card debt. And that is how I put my money where my values are.
Yes, that's amazing. Well, congratulations on that. It's hard for a lot of people to pay off the credit card in full. I pay my credit card in full all the time. I don't keep, I've had my own debt in the past, and I don't ever want to go back to that. I remember the days when the only time my phone was ringing when the bill collectors were calling me. So I said, no more. And now I use my credit card because of the points. I want to get
Mm-hmm.
my points so I can get my free perfume. I collect the points so I can buy my perfume for free. My perfume costs almost $300. I don't want to pay for it. I want to win it. So, because
Yeah.
it's so much more precious. But I pay my credit card in full every single month. And my daughter does the same thing. When she got her credit card with her own credit, I did not vouch for her. I wasn't a co-signer. So
Mm-hmm.
she got it because I've been teaching her about money since she was very young. And so she got her credit card on her own credit, $1,000 credit as soon as she turned 18. And now she gets the bill. The first time when she got it was really funny because she got the credit card bill and she goes, "What is this? Why am I getting this?" I'm like, it says in here that you went to this store and you bought this. Like, they asking for their money back. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
They want their money back. And then if you don't pay this back, you're going to pay with interest. So you better pay it off now. So now she doesn't even wait for the bill to come. As soon as she makes the purchase, she pays off the bill on that day before the end of the day. It's for her, it's that
Mm-hmm.
important. So I was like, yeah. And she's using the cards for the points as well, but she's paying it off right away.
Yeah. And she's building her
Yeah.
credit that
She's
way
building her
too.
credit.
Yeah.
Yes. I know some schools, when I say this, some schools, because I know I'm in Canada. In Canada, the financial literacy that they have is really not quality,
Mm.
and not all schools have that. A lot of kids do not understand how money works. And I also remember when I went to college 16 years ago, I went as a grown person, I went to college because I wanted to study what I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
study. So I remember the first week when I started college, and this happens now all the time as well. You see the credit card groups,
Yep.
MasterCard and Visa, and they want to give them a credit card the first week of school. They get a credit card and then they go to the bar. And this is what students have done when I was in school. They would go to the pub, they would buy lunch, they would sit down and drink and all that kind of stuff. And then they would cry
Mm-hmm.
because how am I going to pay this bill? Because
Yep.
even during college, like college years, they still didn't understand how money works, which that is so sad,
No, no, I
you know?
didn't. When I got my first credit card when I was in college, I saw the exact same thing. All of
Right.
the tables set out, and like, and how many credit cards can you get? It's like a game, but it's like
You
fun
know?
money, and you can
And
get
then
in trouble
you
very
like what you say,
quickly.
there's a saying, you rob Peter to pay Paul. So you pay, you use one credit card to pay
Yeah.
the other. Hey, I've been there. I've done that. So I know. I've done that, so I know what that's like. So, okay, what does financial harmony mean to you in a partnership? And how can
Hmm.
parents work towards that when they have very different money stories? I know you
Yeah.
talked about this a little bit earlier,
I
but
did.
you
And
want
I
to go a
think,
bit deeper on
yeah,
it?
we can go deeper. So financial harmony to me is how you work together
Mm,
with your different values, right? Because
yeah.
we're not all going to always be on the same page. We're two very different people. You're still individuals. You just because you got
Mm-hmm.
married doesn't mean that suddenly you agree on everything. It just doesn't work that
Mm-hmm.
way. We're in the real world.
Right.
We know that. So I started by talking about how if you know your values and you can understand what your non-negotiables are, at least you can kind of work toward that middle
Mm-hmm.
center. But in order to do that too, you also have to make sure you're dividing the workload, not
Yes.
necessarily equally, but equitably. And that means
Yeah.
you don't both have to be working the spreadsheets. There may be one person, I'm the person in my family who's much more like into spreadsheets and numbers
Mm-hmm.
and doing all the planning, but the other person needs to have a role
Mm-hmm.
and feel like they're an equal partner, even though they're not doing the exact same thing. So it's division of
Yes.
labor, but not division of power. You're both powerful. And so for that, some of that is also coming up with, well, what are the things that we need to know that we have to talk about? Like do you set a threshold for
Mm-hmm.
expenses or things that you buy that you need to actually talk with your partner about? So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to know about my husband's dollar a day soda habit.
Right.
He can spend that money however he wants. But if he wants to buy a $200 piece of video equipment, well, yeah, I want to have that conversation and decide
Yes.
how we're going to do that, if it's worth it for our family and finances work out. But there's also having that separate but equal in a way where we have our own bank account separate from our joint account. And some people have completely separate accounts, but we have a joint account and then we have
Yes.
our fun money accounts. I call mine my freedom fund.
Mm-hmm.
And we each put there's a certain amount of money that goes in there every month, and that's the money we don't have to talk about when we spend it.
Right.
Sometimes he uses that money to buy gifts. Like he doesn't want anybody to see, he doesn't want me to see how much money he spent on a gift for me for Christmas or whatever. So, having those kind of conversations, dividing the labor, but also dividing the assets a little bit so that you have that autonomy
Mm-hmm.
still. And the other thing that we do is we have weekly money conversations. So
Mm-hmm.
they basically starts off with, well, how are you feeling about money this week? Because sometimes I feel
Oh,
scared, sometimes I
yes.
feel confident, whatever that is. We talk about that first. Like, how are you feeling about it?
Mm-hmm.
And we get that all on the table. Well, how do you feel like how did we do last week on our spending
Mm-hmm.
or toward a goal that we might have set for ourselves? Have those kind of level setting conversations and then look ahead. Okay, well, what do we have coming up? What do we need to spend? Oh, Caroline's birthday is
Mm-hmm.
this week. We got to make sure
Mm-hmm.
we're planning for the dinner and getting the gifts and budgeting for
Yes.
that. So it's all that, having those weekly conversations where you come together, and it should not be during a time of crisis. It should not be during a moment where you're feeling
Yes.
stressed about it. It has to be
Mm-hmm.
planned, and maybe even not even in the house. For a walk, go to the restaurant, take it
Yes.
outside, but make it almost like a money date night.
Mm-hmm. Oh, those are
um,
so important.
yeah.
Yes.
So kill two birds with one stone. Have a date night, but talk about money a little bit.
The money date.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, in some of those conversations you can bring the kids into as well. I mean, we talked
Absolutely.
about, like, we were planning for a vacation and we're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, okay, we want to spend this amount of money. This is how much money we have right now. What are we going to do between now and
Mm-hmm.
2 months from now to pay for that? So those are the kind of conversations that the kids can still have with you too. It does not have to be just between you.
That is so
Just,
beautiful. I love that so much.
so,
I
I mean,
love
that's a
that so
lot.
much. No, no, I love that so much because so many people don't do it. So many people don't talk about money as partners, or the parents don't talk about money with the kids. I know there's someone that I've known for a long time, and she was 35 years old and she had no idea what the parents, like how they make money. And she didn't have many skills herself because the parents said, don't worry, we'll do everything for you. And she had no idea. And they got into a situation where they couldn't afford to sustain her lifestyle. And she was crushed because she didn't learn anything at
Yeah.
35. So having those money conversations with your partner and then having those conversations with the kids as well. You can have it separate, but have it with the kids as well. You know what I mean? It's so important. And many people don't do it, which I think
Yeah.
they're robbing the kids of life skills that could help them succeed for life. And they don't have
Absolutely.
those conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they really are. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. I think you have more to say. Go ahead.
Do I have more to say? Well, I
I
think
don't
if we
know.
go back to that, having the money conversation as a couple first and then
Hmm.
aligning on what you want to share with the kids and what you don't want to share with the kids is probably
Yes.
important too, right? Because there may be things that you aren't as comfortable sharing. One of you might not be as
Right.
comfortable sharing than others. Just make sure you're on the same page going
Right.
in. And I think I think those were three pretty big things
Yes.
there. And I created a worksheet that couples can use to kind of help frame out what that money date looks like and how that conversation can go. I think we've got a link for it going up somewhere. I can share it
Yes.
on the chat, but it's,
Yes, you can share it in the chat and I'll have it as well and I'll share it later for sure in the description. So yes, absolutely.
yeah. But it's at
Yeah.
my website, stephkoenig.com/couples money. I have to remember how I put it.
Yeah.
Couples
Or they
money.
can also follow you on
You
Instagram
can
if you're
follow
on
me on
Instagram.
Instagram and you'll get to it right from my Instagram as
Yes.
well.
I can send you a DM. So they
Slide into
can,
my DMs, right?
yes, absolutely. I mean, I think you have so much to share that is so important. Before we go, if the parents were to walk away or anyone that's watching right now, if they're your parent or not, an adult, by yourself, doesn't matter. Any viewers, what is one advice that you have for them when it comes to money and boundaries?
Hmm. I mean, I have to go back to what I said earlier, and it's catchy, but it's also just put your money where your values are. Really understand what you want,
Mm,
and that'll help you with your conversations with your kids, but it'll also help you to better manage that your finances and your money goals.
mm-hmm. And one last question. I lied. I have one more question. Is,
Shoot.
is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wish I had?
Oh, no. I mean, this was a really great conversation. I really loved
Yeah.
having this with you, Duina, and it was just you're right. It was just a fun chat, and I am very glad that
Yes.
we were able to talk about this.
Me
It's such an
too.
important topic.
Me too. I know it's very important topic, and I want to say thank you to you for being transparent with your story, because many people don't have that courage to come and share that with the public. And I think it's so important that we start sharing these conversations, the money talks, because my goal is to make money conversation comfortable, and I don't want them to be taboo anymore because
Hmm.
that's the only way for us to be able to build wealth. Look, the audience say thank you for sharing your experience with
Yeah,
us, Vicky,
yeah.
because it's so important to share this. Not very many people want to do this. So I want to say kudos to you for sharing. I'm very, very grateful for your time. Of course, the one thing I wrote it down because sometimes I forget and I have my ADHD and I go, whoop, there's something else. So I want to say thank you for being here and for modeling exactly the kind of openness we want to have with our kids and with our partners, but most importantly, with ourselves. Because that
Yes.
is something that we don't do enough, especially as women. So thank you so much for that. And I want to thank everyone for watching. Please follow Steph. It's Steph. Can you say your handle?
Yes. Steph Koenig coaching.
She has a lot of information that she shares on boundaries, money boundaries, healthy boundaries, boundaries for partnerships. The content is amazing. And if you want more support to talk to your kids or your partners about money or for yourself, budgeting or anything when it comes to raising financial confident kids, if you do have kids, reach out to me. I'm offering a one-on-one financial roadmap session. Send me a DM and I'll send you more information. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Steph. I'm giving you this heart. This
I'll
is
give
like,
back.
yes, thank you so much. And I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you. I appreciate your time. And I hope everyone has received all of this amazing information that you had to share with everybody. So thank you so much.
Thank you
Bye,
all.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.